The massive screen in the Galactic Empire's High Council chamber flickered to life. Thousands of alien beings from across the galaxy stopped their conversations and turned to watch. The image showed a human male in a dark blue uniform standing on what appeared to be a starship bridge. Admiral Dongwoo Kim looked directly into the camera. His face was calm, but his dark eyes held something that made even the most powerful beings in the galaxy feel uncomfortable. Behind him, other humans worked at their stations, their movements quick and precise. "To the Galactic Empire Council," Admiral Kim began, his voice clear and steady. "This is Admiral Kim of the Human Defense Fleet. I am speaking to you from the bridge of our flagship, the Indomitable." Chancellor Vextar, a tall reptilian creature with green scales and yellow eyes, leaned forward in his golden throne. He had ruled the Empire for over 300 years and had seen many species try to threaten them. None had succeeded. "You have taken our people from New Sol Station," Admiral Kim continued. "You have destroyed 3 of our colonies without warning. You have refused all attempts at peaceful talks. This ends now." The human admiral paused, letting his words sink. Around the chamber, various alien species began whispering to each other. Some laughed. Others looked worried. Humans had only been traveling in space for about 200 years. They were still new, still weak compared to the mighty Empire. "You have exactly 72 standard hours to withdraw from all human colonies," Admiral Kim said. "You will release every human prisoner you have taken. You will pay for the damages you have caused to our people." Chancellor Vextar's laugh echoed through the chamber. It was a harsh, rasping sound that made several smaller aliens step back in fear. "And if we refuse, little human, what will you do?" Admiral Kim's expression did not change. "This is not a negotiation, Chancellor. This is not a plea for mercy. This is your final warning. We have asked nicely for peace. You have chosen war instead. If you do not meet our demands, we will show you what humans are truly capable of. You dare threaten us?" Chancellor Vextar stood up from his throne, his massive form towering over the other council members. "We have 50,000 warships. We control 10,000 worlds. We have crushed civilizations that were traveling the stars when your species was still living in caves." 72 hours, Admiral Kim repeated. He looked around the chamber, his gaze meeting the eyes of various council members. "I suggest you use that time wisely." The transmission ended. The screen went dark. For a moment, the entire council chamber was silent. Then Chancellor Vextar began to laugh again. "Did you hear that? These humans think they can threaten us. A species with barely 200 ships dares to give ultimatums to the Empire." Other council members joined in the laughter. The Krillian ambassador, a being that looked like a giant insect, clicked his mandibles together in amusement. "Perhaps we should send a single patrol ship to deal with their entire fleet," he suggested, but not everyone was laughing. Ambassador Zephyra of the Ethereal Collective, a tall, thin being with silver skin and large black eyes, remained quiet. Her species was known for their ability to sense things others could not. "Something is wrong," she said quietly. Chancellor Vextar turned to her, still grinning. "Wrong? What could be wrong? These humans are nothing. They have no real weapons, no real ships, no real power. That human admiral," Zephyra continued, her voice barely above a whisper, "he was not afraid, at all. When facing the entire Empire, he showed no fear, no doubt, no hesitation." "So what?" the Chancellor replied. "Some beings are simply too stupid to be afraid." Zephyra shook her head. "No, this was different." He spoke like someone who knows exactly what they are capable of, like someone who has already won. Meanwhile, aboard the human flagship Indomitable, Admiral Kim walked away from the communication station. Lieutenant Hae-Jin Park, a young woman with short black hair, looked up from her console. "Admiral, all Empire frequencies are buzzing with activity," she reported. "They're mobilizing their fleets." Commander Sora Lee, a woman in her 30s with sharp, intelligent eyes, approached the Admiral. "Sir, our scouts report massive fleet movements throughout Empire space. They're taking the threat seriously, even if they're laughing about it." Admiral Kim nodded. "Good. How long until our preparations are complete?" 68 hours, sir," Commander Lee replied. All human fleets are moving into position. The special weapons are being distributed to our ships. The Ghost Protocol teams are already in place behind enemy lines. And our friends? The Admiral asked. The Resistance. Groups on 17 different worlds are ready to act on your signal, Lieutenant Park added. They've been waiting for this moment for decades. Admiral Kim walked to the large window at the front of the bridge. Outside, he could see other human ships moving through space. There were not many of them compared to the Empire's massive fleets, but each one had been built for a specific purpose. Each one carried weapons and technology the Empire had never seen before. Sir, Commander Lee said quietly, are you sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back. Admiral Kim was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice soft but firm. They had their chance for peace, Sora. We tried to talk. We tried to find a solution that would work for everyone. But they chose to attack our people instead. He turned away from the window and looked at his crew. The Empire thinks we are weak because we are new to space. They think our small numbers mean we cannot fight. They are about to learn that humans do not fight the way other species fight. What? Are your orders, sir? Commander Lee asked. Continue preparations. Make sure every ship knows their mission. And send a message to all human colonies. Admiral Kim paused. Tell them to begin the evacuation protocols. All of them. Lieutenant Park looked surprised. Sir, all colonies? Even the ones far from Empire space? Admiral Kim nodded grimly. When this starts, nowhere in the galaxy will be safe. The Empire is about to learn that humans keep their promises. All of them. Across the galaxy, other species watched and waited. Some hoped the humans would back, down, and prevent a war. Others wanted to see what would happen when the small human fleet met the mighty Empire. But deep in the shadows of space, human ships moved quietly through the darkness. On distant worlds, human agents activated equipment that had been hidden for years, and in secret laboratories, human scientists made final preparations for weapons that would change everything. The 72-hour countdown had begun. The Empire continued to laugh and make jokes about the foolish humans who dared to threaten them. They would not be laughing for much longer. The 72 hours had passed. Chancellor Vextar sat in his throne room, surrounded by his advisors. Reports came in from across the Empire. Not only had they refused humanity's demands, but they had also attacked 3 more human colonies, just to show their power. Let the humans see what happens when they threaten the Empire, the Chancellor said with satisfaction. Our fleets are moving to crush their pathetic resistance once and for all. But even as he spoke, something strange was happening throughout Empire space. Communication relays began going silent, one by one. At first, the Empire's commanders thought it was just technical problems. They were wrong. Captain Taeho Choi stood on the bridge of his ship, the Shadow's Edge. His vessel was unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. It was small, dark, and could move through space without being detected by most sensors. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. Target acquired, reported his weapons officer. Empire Communication Relay Station 77 Alpha. Fire, Captain Choi ordered. A beam of energy shot out from his ship. It was not like the massive laser cannons the Empire used. This beam was thin, precise, and designed to do one specific job. The relay station exploded in a flash of light. Relay destroyed, the weapons officer confirmed. Empire forces in this sector are now cut off from their command. Captain Choi smiled. Move to the next target. We have work to do. Across the galaxy, dozens of ships like the Shadow's Edge were doing the same thing. They struck fast, destroyed their targets, and disappeared before Empire forces could respond. Within hours, huge sections of the Empire's military had lost contact with their commanders. But the real surprise was yet to come. Admiral Vextar's nephew, General Krixtar, commanded the first Empire fleet to encounter human forces. He led 800 warships toward the Kepler sector, where a small group of human vessels had been spotted. General Krixtar expected an easy victory. Look at them, he said to his officers as the human ships appeared on their screens. Only 20 ships against our 800. This will be over in minutes. The human ships were strange. They were much smaller than Empire vessels, and they moved in ways that seemed impossible. Instead of forming the traditional battle lines that all civilized species used, the human ships scattered in different directions. "What are they doing?" asked the general's tactical officer. "Why are they not forming up for battle?" General Krickstar laughed. "They are running like cowards. Order all ships to pursue and destroy them." The Empire fleet broke formation and chased after the human ships. That was their first mistake. Engineer Minseo Yang watched from her position aboard the human cruiser Defiance as the Empire ships spread out to chase her fleet. She smiled and pressed a button on her console. "Nanite swarms deployed," she announced. Millions of tiny machines, smaller than grains of sand, shot out from the human ships. They moved through space like invisible clouds, heading straight for the Empire vessels. The Empire's sensors could not detect them. Their shields could not stop them. The nanites landed on the hulls of the Empire ships and immediately began their work. They ate through the metal, creating tiny holes that quickly became bigger holes. Within minutes, the mighty Empire warships began to fall apart from the inside. "What's happening?" General Krickstar shouted as alarms began ringing throughout his flagship. "Why are our ships losing power?" His officers scrambled to find answers, but they had no experience with nanotechnology. To them, their ships were simply failing for no reason. While the Empire fleet struggled with the nanite attack, pilot Jae-Won Lim led his squadron of human fighters into battle. The Empire had never seen fighters like these before. They were tiny, fast, and seemed to appear and disappear at will. "Dragon Squadron, this is Dragon Leader," Jae-Won spoke into his communicator. "Begin attack run on the Empire flagship." His fighters moved like a swarm of angry insects, darting between the massive Empire ships. Each fighter carried weapons that could punch through the armor of ships 1,000 times their size. But more importantly, they carried something else. "Deploying smart missiles," Jae-Won announced. The missiles that shot from his fighter were not ordinary weapons. They had tiny computer brains that could think and learn. As they flew toward their targets, they studied the Empire ships, learning their weaknesses and finding the best places to strike. The first missile hit General Krickstar's flagship right in its main power core. The explosion rippled through the entire ship. The second missile destroyed the ship's main weapons. The third took out its engines. All around the battlefield, the same thing was happening. The Empire's huge, powerful warships were being destroyed by tiny human fighters that they could barely see. But the humans had saved their best surprise for last. Commander Sora Lee stood on the bridge of her ship, the Retribution, watching as the Empire fleet fell into chaos. She had been waiting for this moment for years. "All ships, this is Commander Lee," she said into the fleet communication system. "Begin Phase 2. Suddenly, the human ships that had been running away turned around, but they were no longer the same ships the Empire had been chasing. Their hulls began to change, shifting and reshaping themselves. New weapons appeared where there had been none before. Their engines glowed brighter as hidden power sources came online. "Impossible," General Krickstar whispered as he watched the transformation. "Ships cannot change themselves like that." But human ships could. They had been designed to adapt, to become whatever was needed for the battle at hand. Right now, they needed to be killers. The adapted human ships moved through the Empire fleet like sharks among fish. Their new weapons cut through Empire armor as if it were paper. Their improved shields deflected every attack the Empire tried. What had started as a battle between 800 Empire ships and 20 human vessels was quickly becoming a massacre. "Sir," General Krickstar's communications officer called out, his voice shaking. "We're receiving surrender requests from over 300 of our ships." The general stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In less than an hour, his mighty fleet had been reduced to scattered, damaged vessels trying to escape. The humans had not lost a single ship. "How is this possible?" he whispered. He would never get his answer. A human missile, guided by artificial intelligence far beyond anything the Empire possessed, struck his flagship's bridge. General Krickstar and his command staff were vaporized instantly. Admiral Dongwoo Kim received the battle report aboard his flagship. The victory had been even, more complete than he had hoped. "Enemy casualties?" he asked Commander Lee. 812 Empire ships destroyed or disabled," she replied. We captured over 2,000 prisoners. And our losses? Commander Lee smiled. 12 ships with minor damage, no fatalities. Admiral Kim nodded. It was exactly what he had expected. The Empire fought like it was still living in the past, using old tactics and old thinking. Humans fought like they were from the future. Send a message to all Empire forces, he ordered. Tell them this was just the beginning. If they want to see what humans can really do, they should keep fighting. Across the galaxy, news of the Kepler sector battle spread quickly. The mighty Empire had just lost an entire fleet to a handful of human ships. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Empire's enemies began to hope. And in the dark places where humans worked in secret, preparations for the next phase began. The news of the Kepler sector massacre spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In the Empire's capital world, Chancellor Vextar stood before a massive holographic display showing the remains of General Krikstar's fleet. Twisted metal and debris floated in space where 800 proud warships had once sailed. "This is impossible!" the Chancellor hissed, his clawed hands gripping the edges of his command table. "No species has ever defeated our fleets so completely." His military advisors stood around him, all looking nervous and confused. Admiral Thexmore, the Empire's highest-ranking naval officer, stepped forward. "Chancellor, our analysis shows that the humans used weapons and tactics we have never encountered. Their technology appears to be far more advanced than we believed." Chancellor Vextar's eyes blazed with fury. "I don't care how advanced they are. They are just one small species. Send word to every fleet in the Empire. Call back our forces from the Outer Rim. Gather every ship we have. These humans want war? We will give them a war that will wipe them from existence." Across the galaxy, the Empire's massive military machine began to move. Fleets that had been patrolling distant sectors received urgent orders to return. Ships that had been in dock for repairs were rushed back into service. The Empire was preparing to bring its full might against humanity, but humanity was ready for them. Admiral Dongwoo Kim stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching reports come in from across human space. His expression was calm, but his officers could see the determination in his eyes. "Admiral," Commander Sora Lee approached with a datapad. "Empire fleets are massing in 12 different sectors. Intelligence estimates they're gathering over 40,000 ships." Admiral Kim nodded slowly. "They want to see what humans are truly capable of when pushed to the edge. Very well." He turned to his communications officer. "Send the signal to all human fleets and installations. Initiate Protocol Prometheus." Lieutenant Heijin Park's fingers flew over her console. "Protocol Prometheus activated, sir. All units report ready." What the Empire didn't know was that humans had been preparing for this moment since their first contact with alien species 50 years ago. While other civilizations focused on building bigger ships and more powerful weapons, humans had taken a different path. They had studied every species in the galaxy, learned their weaknesses, and prepared weapons that could exploit those weaknesses. Dr. Youngmi Kang stood in her secret laboratory on a hidden research station. Around her, dozens of scientists worked, at stations filled with strange equipment. She was humanity's leading expert on alien biology, and she had spent 20 years creating something the galaxy had never seen before. "Is the delivery system ready?" she asked her assistant. "Yes, Doctor. The bioweapons are loaded into micro-drones and ready for deployment. Each weapon is designed specifically for its target species." Dr. Kang nodded. The weapons she had created would not kill. That was not their purpose. Instead, they would make the Empire's soldiers unable to fight. Some would fall into deep sleep, others would become sick and weak, a few would simply lose the will to battle. Each weapon was perfectly designed for the biology of its target. "Deploy the drones to all Empire worlds with military bases," she ordered. "Let them learn that humans fight with more than just guns and bombs." While Dr. Kang's biological warfare began its silent work, Fleet Commander Ji-hoon Seo prepared to show the Empire another aspect of human military thinking. His ships were gathered at the edge of Empire space, preparing for what would be called the Second Wave. All ships report. "Ready, Commander," his tactical officer announced. Commander SEO looked at the star charts displaying Empire territory. "Begin hyperspace jumps. Target every major military installation in the first 3 sectors." What happened next should have been impossible. Human ships began appearing in hyperspace jumps that violated every known law of physics. They emerged from hyperspace inside heavily defended systems, bypassing shields and defensive fleets entirely. The Empire's scientists had always believed that hyperspace jumps near large objects like planets or stars were impossible. The gravitational forces would tear apart any ship that tried, but humans had found a way to use those same gravitational forces to their advantage, allowing them to appear exactly where they wanted to be. Captain Yunji Nam commanded one of humanity's most advanced vessels, the Prometheus. Her ship was different from all others because it was controlled not by a human crew, but by an artificial intelligence more powerful than anything the Empire had ever created. Arya, show me the tactical situation, Captain Nam said to her ship's AI. Captain Nam, the artificial intelligence replied in a calm, female voice. I am currently coordinating attacks across 17 different star systems simultaneously. Enemy response times are averaging 4.7 minutes slower than optimal due to their command structure limitations. Captain Nam smiled. While Empire fleets had to wait for orders from their commanders, and those commanders had to wait for orders from their superiors, Arya could think and act faster than any biological mind. Her ship could coordinate attacks across vast distances, making decisions in microseconds that would take Empire officers hours to make. Arya, begin the demonstration, Captain Nam ordered. Across 17 systems, human ships began a coordinated dance of destruction. They struck military bases, destroyed supply depots, and disabled communication networks. But they did it all with such precision that civilian areas were left completely untouched. The Empire's commanders watched in horror as their carefully planned defenses crumbled before attacks that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Their ships would move to defend one target, only to find that the humans had already moved on to attack something else. But the most terrifying part was yet to come. On the Empire world of Vextara, General Mordak commanded the planet's defenses. He had over 1 million soldiers and enough weapons to destroy any invasion force. But when he tried to contact his troops that morning, he found something impossible. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving reports from bases across the planet. Our soldiers they're falling asleep. All of them. General Mordak stared at the officer. What do you mean, falling asleep? The Krillian. Troops at Base 7 went to sleep and won't wake up. The reptilian forces at Base 12 are all too sick to fight. The flying troops from Area can't seem to remember why they're here. Across the planet, the same thing was happening. Dr. Kang's bioweapons had done their work perfectly. An entire world's military force had been neutralized without firing a single shot. Similar reports began coming in from Empire worlds throughout the galaxy. Soldiers who could not fight, commanders who could not think clearly, pilots who had forgotten how to fly their ships. The Empire's military was falling apart from the inside. Chancellor Vextar received the reports in his throne room, his hands shaking with rage and fear. How many worlds? He demanded. Over 300, Chancellor. Admiral Thexmore replied, quietly. All of our major military installations have been either destroyed or neutralized. And our fleets? The ones that haven't been destroyed are scattered and confused. Their communication networks have been disrupted. Many of our commanders are reporting that enemy ships appear and disappear before they can respond. For the first time in his long life, Chancellor Vextar felt true fear. The Empire had ruled the galaxy through superior numbers and overwhelming force. But humans fought differently. They turned the Empire's size and rigid structure against itself. How long until we can restore our defenses? The Chancellor asked. Admiral Thexmore looked at his reports and shook his head. At this rate, Chancellor, we may not have any defenses left to restore. Meanwhile, aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Kim received reports of the second wave's success. In less than a week, humanity had crippled the military might of an empire that had ruled for 1,000 years. Casualties? He asked. Minimal, sir. The Empire's forces were too confused and disorganized to mount effective resistance. Admiral Kim nodded. Good. Send a message to Chancellor Vextar. Tell him he still has time to surrender and save his people from what comes next. And if he refuses? Admiral Kim's expression grew cold. Then we show the galaxy what happens when someone pushes humanity too far. Prepare for Protocol Ragnarok. Chancellor Vextar stood in his private chambers, staring out at the stars. Half of his empire was gone. not destroyed in the traditional sense, but taken away from him piece by these impossible humans. His military advisors had given up trying to explain how such a small species could defeat forces that had conquered the galaxy. His personal communicator buzzed. Admiral Thexmore's voice came through, filled with desperation. "Chancellor, we have received another message from the human admiral. He is offering us one final chance to surrender." "Never," Vextar hissed. "I would rather see the galaxy burn than bow to these creatures." There was a pause. Then Admiral Thexmore spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. "Chancellor, perhaps we should consider—" "I said never," Vextar roared. "Prepare the planet. Killer. If we cannot defeat them with conventional weapons, we will use the one weapon that can destroy anything." Deep in the Empire's most secret facility, technicians worked frantically to prepare their ultimate weapon. The Planet Killer was a massive device that could destroy entire worlds. It had been built centuries ago but never used. The Empire had kept it as their final threat, their guarantee that no enemy could ever truly defeat them. "Target?" asked the facility commander. "Earth," Chancellor Vextar replied coldly. "The human homeworld. Let them watch their birth planet die. Then we will see how brave they are." The massive weapon powered up, its energy readings climbing to levels that could crack a planet in half. Across the Empire, the few remaining loyal forces gathered to witness what their leader promised would be humanity's end. But aboard the human flagship Indomitable, Admiral Dongwoo Kim received the threat with calm acceptance. He had been expecting this moment for years. "Sir," Lieutenant Haejin Park reported, her voice tight with worry. "Empire sensors show the Planet Killer charging up. They're targeting Earth." Admiral Kim nodded slowly. "Send the evacuation confirmation signal. How many people are still on Earth?" "None, sir," Commander Sora Lee replied. "The last transport left 3 days ago. Earth is completely empty." "Good," Admiral Kim said. He turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to Chancellor Vexitar." The alien leader's reptilian face appeared on the main screen, twisted with rage and hatred. "Human, you will watch your precious homeworld die." Admiral Kim's expression remained perfectly calm. "Chancellor, you have made a terrible mistake. You have chosen to cross the line that we hoped you would never cross. You want to destroy planets? Very well. We will show you what planet destruction really looks like." He paused, his dark eyes boring into the alien ruler's yellow ones. "Protocol. Ragnarok is now authorized." Chancellor Vextar laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through his command center. "You think your empty threats frighten me? Fire the Planet Killer!" The massive weapon released its energy beam, a lance of destruction that could crack worlds. It shot through space toward Earth at impossible speed, but when it reached Earth's location, the weapon found only empty space. "Impossible." "Chancellor," Vextar screamed. "Where is their planet?" His technicians scrambled over their instruments, trying to understand what they were seeing. Earth should have been there. Their sensors had tracked it for days, but now there was nothing but empty space where the human homeworld should have been. "Sir," one technician reported, his voice shaking, "our sensors show massive gravitational distortions in that area. It's like something incredibly heavy just moved." What Chancellor Vextar didn't understand was that humans had spent decades preparing for this moment. Director Hyun-Soo Park had overseen humanity's most secret project, turning their homeworld into something that could be moved through space like a giant starship. "Earth relocation complete," Director Park reported from his hidden control center. "The planet is now in safe space, protected by our defense fleets." But Earth was no longer just humanity's homeworld. It had been converted into something far more dangerous. Captain Woo Jin Hong stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching as Earth began its new mission. The planet's surface was covered with massive engines and weapons that had been built in secret over decades. What had once been a peaceful world was now the largest weapon ever created. "All systems ready, Captain," his weapons officer reported. "Captain." Hong looked at the tactical display showing the Empire's capital system. "Target! Vexitara Prime! Engage planetary acceleration drives!" Earth, now transformed into a kinetic weapon of impossible size, began moving through hyperspace toward the Empire's capital world. It would take time to reach its target. But when it did, the impact would destroy not just the planet, but the entire star system. Meanwhile, Commander Eugene Lee prepared humanity's final surprise. She commanded the Ghost Fleet, ships that existed in a state that made them impossible to detect or attack. They could strike anywhere without warning and disappear before the enemy could respond. "All Ghost ships report ready," her tactical officer announced. "Begin final assault," Commander Lee ordered. "Target every remaining Empire stronghold simultaneously." Across the galaxy, ghost ships appeared as if from nowhere. They struck Empire bases, command centers, and shipyards. But these attacks were different from before. This time, the humans were not just disabling their enemies, they were erasing them completely. The weapons the Ghost Fleet carried were beyond anything the Empire could understand. They didn't just destroy matter, they made it cease to exist entirely. Ships, bases, even entire moons simply vanished as if they had never been there at all. Chancellor Vextar watched in horror as his empire disappeared piece by piece. His military commanders could only stand in shock as reports came in of entire fleets simply ceasing to exist. "How many worlds have we lost?" he asked weakly. "Over 8,000, Chancellor," Admiral Thexmore replied. "And the number is growing. Every minute. Our reserves? Our hidden fleets? Gone. All gone. The humans seem to know exactly where everything is located." The truth was that humanity's intelligence network was more advanced than the Empire had ever imagined. Human agents had been gathering information for decades, learning the location of every secret base, every hidden weapon, every emergency plan the Empire had made. "Sir," a technician called out urgently, "we're detecting massive gravitational anomalies approaching our system. Something huge is coming through hyperspace." On the main screen, a sight appeared that would haunt the survivors for the rest of their lives. Earth, humanity's transformed homeworld, dropped out of hyperspace just outside the Empire's capital. System. The planet glowed with energy, its surface bristling with weapons that could destroy stars. Captain Wu Jin Hong's voice came over the communication channels, reaching every being in the system. "This is Captain Hong of the Terran Kinetic Division. You have 1 hour to evacuate all civilian populations from this system. In 1 hour, this system will cease to exist." Chancellor Vexitar finally understood the true nature of his enemy. Humans didn't just fight wars. They fought with such complete dedication that they would sacrifice their own homeworld to win. "Open a channel," he said quietly. "I wish to speak to the human admiral." Admiral Kim's face appeared on the screen again. This time, Chancellor Vexitar could see something in the human's eyes that made his blood run cold. There was no anger, no hatred, no emotion at all, just cold, calculating determination. "I surrender," Chancellor Vexitar said, his voice breaking. "Please, I surrender unconditionally. Spare my people." Admiral Kim studied the alien ruler for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice carrying to every corner of the galaxy. "Too late, Chancellor. You chose to threaten our homeworld. You chose to try to destroy planets. We warned you what would happen if you pushed us too far." He leaned forward slightly. "We don't stop until it's ash." The screen went dark. Chancellor Vextar collapsed into his throne, finally understanding that his empire was doomed. The humans had not come to conquer. They had come to completely erase everything the Empire had ever built, and they were very, very good at it. The hour was up. Captain Wu Jin Hong stood on the bridge of his control ship, watching as Earth aligned itself with the Empire's capital star. The planet that had once been home to 12 billion humans was now humanity's ultimate weapon, bristling with technology that could manipulate the very forces that held stars together. "All civilian evacuations complete?" he asked. "Confirmed, Captain. All non-military personnel have been evacuated from the system," his tactical officer replied. Captain Hong nodded grimly. Even in their final act of destruction, humans tried to spare innocent lives. But Chancellor Vexitar had chosen this path when he threatened to destroy Earth. "Begin stellar manipulation sequence," Captain Hong ordered. What happened next would be talked about across the galaxy for thousands of years. Earth's modified surface began to glow with energy that came from the planet's core itself. Massive, Generators that had been built in secret over decades started to work, creating forces that could affect the nuclear reactions inside stars. The Empire's capital star, Vexitara, began to change. Its normally steady light started to flicker. Deep inside the star, the careful balance that had kept it burning for billions of years was being disrupted by human technology. Chancellor Vexitar stood in his command center, watching his son die. Around him, his remaining advisors stared in horror at displays showing the star's internal structure collapsing. "How long do we have?" he asked quietly. His chief scientist, a being who had studied stars for over a century, looked at the readings with disbelief. "The star will go supernova in approximately 6 hours, Chancellor. When it does, it will destroy everything in this system and several neighboring systems as well." The Chancellor closed his eyes. His empire's capital, the seat of power that had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years, would soon be nothing but expanding gas and radiation. But even worse, the explosion would destroy dozens of other worlds that were home to billions of innocent beings. "Send word to all systems. Within 50 light years," he ordered. "Begin immediate evacuation." But even as evacuation ships launched frantically from worlds throughout the region, Chancellor Vextar knew it was too late. The humans had chosen their revenge perfectly. The Empire's capital would die, and with it would die the idea that the Empire was undefeatable. Admiral Dongwoo Kim received reports of the stellar manipulation from his flagship. Around him, his officers worked quietly, coordinating the final phase of their campaign. The Indomitable hung in space far from the dying system, safe from the coming explosion. "Admiral," Commander Sora Lee approached with the latest intelligence. "Reports. Empire forces throughout the galaxy are surrendering. Most of their remaining fleets have powered down their weapons and are requesting mercy. And their leaders? Chancellor Vexitar is still in the capital system. He has refused all evacuation attempts. Admiral Theximor and most of the High Council have surrendered and are requesting immediate transportation to safe locations." Admiral Kim looked out at the stars. Soon, one of those points of light would become the brightest explosion the galaxy had ever seen, and when it faded, the Empire would be finished. "Begin phase final," he ordered. "Deploy reconstruction teams to all liberated worlds." Lieutenant Colonel Mi Young Shin had been waiting for this order. She commanded humanity's post-war operations division, teams of specialists trained to rebuild civilizations that had been damaged by the Empire's rule. Her ships were filled with doctors, engineers, teachers, and aid workers. "All reconstruction fleets report ready, Colonel," her aide announced. "Begin deployment to all former Empire worlds," she ordered. "Priority goes to worlds that were oppressed or damaged by Empire forces. We're not conquerors. We're liberators." Across the galaxy, human ships began landing on worlds that had lived under the Empire's rule for centuries. But these were not invasion forces. They brought food, medicine, and technology to help rebuild what the Empire had destroyed. They offered protection to species that had been enslaved and freedom to those who had been oppressed. Director Sang-ho oversaw the massive logistical operation from his command center. Charts and displays showed the progress of reconstruction efforts on thousands of worlds. His teams worked around the clock to coordinate relief efforts across the galaxy. "Status report," he requested. 2,000 worlds have accepted our aid," his assistant replied. 300 have requested full protection status. Only 57 have refused our help entirely. "And those who refuse? We leave them alone as ordered. No forced assistance." This was perhaps the most surprising thing about humanity's victory. They did not force their rule on anyone. Worlds that wanted help received it freely. Those that preferred to govern themselves were left in peace. The humans had not come to build an empire of their own, but they had come to make sure that nothing like the old empire could ever rise again. 6 hours after the stellar manipulation began, Vextara went supernova. The explosion was visible from thousands of light years away, a brilliant flash that marked the end of the Empire's capital. Chancellor Vextar died with his world, choosing to face his end rather than flee. When the light faded, the Empire was truly finished. Its fleets were scattered or destroyed. Its worlds were free or under human protection. Its leaders were dead, captured, or hiding in exile. Admiral Kim stood on the observation deck of his flagship, watching the distant glow of the supernova. Commander Sora Lee joined him, carrying the final casualty reports. "Our losses for the entire campaign?" he asked. 143 ships damaged or destroyed. "Just over 2,000 casualties," she replied. "The Empire lost everything." Admiral Kim nodded slowly. It had been the most one-sided war in galactic history. A species that had seemed weak and small had completely destroyed an empire that had ruled for a millennium. "Send a message to all surviving Empire forces in all worlds in the galaxy," he ordered. The message that went out would become known as the Terran Declaration, the document that established humanity's place as the new protectors of galactic peace. "To all beings in the galaxy," Admiral Kim's voice carried to every world with communication technology. "The Galactic Empire is finished. Its rule of fear and oppression is over forever." He paused, letting his words sink in across the stars. "Humanity did not want this war. We asked for peace. We offered compromise. We tried every diplomatic solution. The Empire chose violence instead. They chose to threaten our worlds and our people. We gave them exactly what they asked for." Captain Da-Un Lim listened to the Admiral's speech from her patrol ship, orbiting a newly liberated world. Below her, the planet's population was celebrating their freedom for the first time in centuries. Human aid workers were already on the surface, helping to establish new governments and rebuild damaged cities. "Let this be remembered across the stars," Admiral Kim continued. "Humanity asked for peace. The Empire chose war. We gave them war until nothing remained but ash and the memory of what happens when you mistake human patience for human weakness." The galaxy was learning new lessons about humanity. They were not cruel conquerors who wanted to rule over other species, but they were also not weak victims who could be pushed around. They were protectors who would go to any length to defend what they cared about. "The galaxy is now under the protection of the Terran hegemony," Admiral Kim announced. "We will not rule you. We will not control you, but we will protect you from anyone who tries to build another empire of oppression." In the years that followed, the galaxy entered an age of peace, unlike anything it had ever known. Trade flourished between worlds that had been enemies under the Empire. Species that had been enslaved rebuilt their civilizations with human help. Science and art advanced as beings were free to explore and create, and throughout it all, human ships patrolled the trade routes and protected the weak from those who would exploit them. They asked for nothing in return except the knowledge that the galaxy was safe. The Empire had learned too late that humans kept their promises, all of them, including the promise that they don't stop until it's ash.